moving towards the podium, and we are going to get this information that we have been waiting for about an hour for. So, yeah, officially moving towards the podium. So, there is Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. I believe I should get out of the way.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At today's press conference, we will hear from Governor Cox, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Sheriff Mike Smith. We also have with us Utah DPS Commissioner Bo Mason, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles, and local and federal law enforcement partners. Following the remarks today, Governor Cox, Director Patel, and Commissioner Mason will take questions. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well.
What is it?
And I'll share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who's worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. I want to thank the family members of Tyler Robinson who did the right thing in this case and were able to bring him into to law enforcement as well. I especially want to thank the family of Charlie Kirk, Erica, Charlie's parents, his children. I want us to be thinking of them as we bring justice in this case. They will be involved in that justice. We will be working very closely with them as we move through this process as well. This is a very sad day for our country, a terrible day for the state of Utah, but I'm grateful that at this moment we have an opportunity to bring closure to this very dark chapter in our nation's history. With that, I'll now turn the microphone over to the director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thank you, Governor. This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPS community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times. And a case like this cannot be solved, cannot be brought without partnering with your state and local authorities. The FBI has a certain role to play. We will play that role, and we will lead after the federal government. Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilized these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed, that is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11.
So Kash Patel is giving a TikTok of every law enforcement action as it pertains to this case. I'm actually not sure why he's doing that. The local officials there, of course, were way more informative about the name of the suspect, what was written on certain shell casings, apparently, how the suspect was apprehended. The family members apparently turned the suspect in, Tyler Robinson. I'm not sure why Kash Patel is giving a TikTok of everything that they did. He seems to be, frankly, a little bit insecure in his announcement here I think what people really want to hear about is who is this person? What was the motive? And what is the evidence around the murder of Charlie Kirk?
And I want to highlight what Governor Cox said. This would not have been possible without you, the media, and you, the public. That's why we went so public, so fast, and we're so transparent, and we're committed to that transparency. The crime scene, just a little bit there. It is a large crime scene. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, process that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we needed to prepare to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully to state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here. We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect it, and we will continue to deliver to Governor Cox and his team. Last night, we had a total of approximately 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI. And we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out. The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement being great, and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. The FBI Salt Lake field office, along with our offices in LA, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, our headquarters component in Quantico, all participate in the FBI. I want to express my deep gratitude to the employees of the FBI, the men and women, the evidence response team tacticians, the special operators, the agents, the support staff. You have done monumental work in historic time when the public, who had a right to demand such an expeditious solving of an investigation, the FBI answered that call diligently, critically important to our nation, and we delivered. And I'm proud to be their leader, and I'm proud to be the director of the FBI. This is a very much an ongoing investigation, as the governor said, and we will continue to work with state and local authorities to develop the investigation, to provide them the evidence they need for their ongoing prosecutions, and we will be here to answer every call they absolutely have, as long as it takes, for as long as we need to find and apprehend whatever suspects were involved in this crime. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
So obviously that was Cash Patel. Well, this is a local official. Let's listen to him.
Good morning. I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation. As you know, it's been a vast, a complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing. It has been so impressive, speaking on behalf of the local law enforcement, to see the cooperation that we've seen in this type of case. Across the state, sheriffs, chiefs, our state partners have stepped up and have come to the call on anything that we needed. Our county chiefs have been phenomenal. Our Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, who's standing up here with us, has been phenomenal in leading us through this investigation. I would like to thank the federal government for their resources, their assets. Our local team here, our FBI team, has been extraordinary in helping us work through this and bring this person to justice. Most of all, I would like to thank the public, and specifically, I would like to thank the public who turned to prayers and who turned to positiveness for us. I would like to thank them on behalf of the law enforcement community, because we needed those prayers. That's what we needed to get through this. We needed your support, and you gave it to us. We needed your patience, and you gave it to us. And I would like to thank you for the Kirk family, because that's what they need, is your support and your prayers, and that will get us through all of this. So thank you, everybody, for everybody that has stepped up. We've had such a phenomenal response to this. Thank you.
I also want to give a special thanks to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. Their unwavering support.
So now they're just doing shout outs. They're not really doing any information about the suspect or the motive or anything specific to this murder. Now we're doing shout outs and we're doing salutes to people in the office. This guy has actually been the most informative of this press conference, this gentleman.
Who has worked so hard. Sheriff, I got a solid 90 minutes last night, so I'm probably the most well-rested person up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here, and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere, and every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are.
So now we have the official making effectively a political statement. It will be interesting to see if anybody brings up assault weapons or anything with regard to the number of firearms in the United States.
For lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was...
So this is now sort of gotten into almost like a little bit of a therapy session. Understandable given the pressure on these officials. I mean, the pressure of the entire country waiting to see a suspect is a lot. It is a lot, particularly in a jurisdiction that I believe is not exactly, let's say, that experienced in this type of high-profile situation. This is not Boston, Chicago, New York, some of the bigger cities where the police department is so used to dealing with the media that they're very measured in what they say. I think these officials are viewing this as their moment to talk, I guess you could say, and so here we are.
That have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies, nothing annoys them.
Now this official is quoting Charlie Kirk. I'm just waiting for the Q&A portion of this press conference because the Q&A portion is where the reporters are very likely to ask very specific questions about the suspect. Apparently the name is Tyler Robinson that they gave earlier, and the motives and some of the details around what was already announced.
Fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, to my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations.
So the level of nuance here, as you can see, is very deep at this presser, probably deeper than any law enforcement presser I've ever seen. Typically, law enforcement officials are very good at staying away from any political discussion. They stick to the facts, they answer the questions, and they get off the stage. We're seeing something a little bit different in this moment. He's not particularly partisan, I will give him that. There's no real partisanship here yet.
Be held accountable. And yet, all of us have an opportunity right now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utahns. This bad stuff happens. And for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I hoped for. Just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting. There was no looting. There were no cars set on fire. There was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes. Because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us.
Once again, a rare political statement from a law enforcement official that is going on for quite a moment right now. Again, not particularly partisan, but very interesting that he said that he prayed at night that this was, quote, not one of us, that he hoped the shooter was from someplace else. Well, that's rare, because crime typically does happen, whatever community it is, it happens between people who are in close proximity to each other.
A friend and author, Yuval Levin, was asked if he was optimistic about our country. And he said, I'm not optimistic. He said, I hate optimism. God, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. He said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He said, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And Hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country, and I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Governor, can you please speak to whether the suspect is speaking with authorities and his demeanor, Tyler Robinson, when he turned himself in?
I cannot speak to that.
Governor, how do you interpret his motivation? Governor, how do you interpret the engravings on the casing?
Well, I will leave that up to you to interpret what those engravings mean. I think the clearest one that says "catch fascist," there's not, and by the way, that's like catch like a ball, catch this. That's I think that speaks for itself.
Governor, you talked about this level of hatred that this person expressed in the dinner. Beyond that, is there anything?
Sorry, my bad, everybody. This is not a law enforcement official. This is the governor of Utah. That was my mistake.
There's
Apologies.
more that we can share at this time.
Governor, you indicated that he had been communicating with a friend on Discord about the gun. Do you anticipate any more arrests?
We do not at this time have any information that would lead to any additional arrests.
Do you believe he acted alone?
Yes, but the investigation is ongoing.
Can you talk more about the family, what they had to say about the suspect?
How he came into custody of police and where he is right now, Mr. Robinson?
Yes, so right now, Mr. Robinson has been booked into the Utah County Jail. You heard the president this morning report that he was taken into custody, that his family and a friend helped to deliver him into custody of law enforcement in Washington County. Those of you that don't know where Washington County is, it is the southernmost, southwesternmost part of the state of Utah. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive from here, where we are right now, and that's where he lived and where they turned him.
Is he
Can you
talking
tell us
about
more about what the family is saying about Tyler Robinson?
I can't share any more than what I've already
Is
shared.
he talking
Governor,
about
do you have
authorities?
details on how he got back to Washington County and how the gun was obtained?
So how we obtained the gun? The gun was found.
No, how the
was found.
shooter obtained the gun and how the shooter then was able to get back to Washington.
So I don't have much more details on that. We do know that he drove. We had his car here on campus, and then we had his car going south back to the St. George. It's actually the city of Washington in Washington County.
Is he talking with authorities and did he discuss a motive?
I'm sorry.
Did the suspect plan to carry out any other attacks?
We don't have any information that
Are you
would
going to
lead
be
us.
releasing the mugshot?
Yes, in fact, it was just released.
Is he
Yes.
talking with authorities and did he discuss a motive?
I can't answer that right now.
Can you clarify? You've
Okay.
spoken very eloquently about trying to reunite this country. Do you feel that this is a watershed in American history?
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
Again, this is the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. My apologies. I thought he was a law enforcement officer. I did not know he was the governor of Utah. That was my fault, my bad. This is the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. Actually, it makes it more impressive that he wasn't very partisan in his remarks earlier, but this is the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox.
All of our hands and in all of our pockets. We are not wired as human beings biologically, historically. We have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery. And by the way, we've seen another one with a gruesome stabbing very recently that went viral. This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is a cancer on our society right now. And I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. That is happening, and it's happening
Oh,
organically.
I agree with Spencer Cox on that one. He's got my vote. That's a big one there. One of the reasons why I think everybody's so amped up is that social media is taking over our lives and our attention onto things that we wouldn't even know about or see otherwise. Good point there by the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. Again, I apologize for not knowing who he was earlier.
To have seen a video live of something like this happening, I wasn't born until 1975, but I know that things were really dark in the late 60s. Sorry to some of you. I know some of you were there. This is our moment. Do we escalate, or do we find an off-ramp? And again, it's a choice. It's a choice, and every one of us gets to make that choice. Two more questions right here.
Could we clarify that the release of those enhanced images at 8 p.m., the timeline that Director Patel gave us, led to the arrest at 10 p.m.? Is there a direct connection between those two events?
I cannot comment if there is a direct connection or not, but all I can say is that that through some process, the family came to know that this had happened.
One more thing, Governor. Could you just clarify the clothing issue you mentioned earlier? Was he changing outfits?
Correct.
Just clarify this?
Yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU. Last question here.
You said that the suspect was from Utah. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about where, and was he a student here at this university, and is there any history of mental illness?
Yeah. So I don't have any information on the mental illness part. He was not a student here at UVU. He was living and had lived for a long time with his family in Washington County. Thank you, everyone, for your great work in getting this information out. I would just say, process-wise, this may be important. I know many of you aren't familiar with the process in Utah. I think it's important that you understand that. Basically, we have 3 days for charging documents to be filed. A CI will be filed. We'll have more information then, more detailed information as those charging documents are filed in preparation for a preliminary hearing. So 3 days. So we would anticipate then that early next week those charging documents will be filed. We will obviously be working. The county attorney will be working very closely with Mr. Kirk's family as those documents and decisions are prepared and made. Thanks, everyone.
So that is it from Utah. That was the governor, Spencer Cox, who I did not know who he was. That was my fault. And that explains why he made such a long explanation as to his feelings on this incident, the incident of the murder of Charlie Kirk. And so that explains a lot. So Spencer Cox did go into Governor Cox went into a whole big thing there about where our society is, where we are with regard to our politics and political violence. I do think that the most relevant thing that he set up there had to do with the issue of social media, because the fact of the matter is we are seeing so many things and knowing about so many things and having so many things put in front of us as human beings that we wouldn't know anything about. Only, I would say, about 15 years ago, maybe only 10 years ago, we wouldn't have known. And that is problematic on a lot of fronts, particularly when you consider that folks like Elon Musk own these social media companies, and they are putting in front of people negative things because they're trying to get people to stay on these platforms to monetize the appearance and the traffic toward, of course, ads and everything else. So when Governor Cox spoke about that, that was a very relevant part of this issue. And it's not to say that, if you ignore it or if you don't know about it, it's still not traumatizing. But I do think a lot of people were traumatized by what happened here, in large part because you generally do not see, quite frankly, a murder on screen, the likes of which we saw with regard to Charlie Kirk. I mean, that was, in fact, something that is, thank God, rare, right? And that was, I think, shocking for a lot of people. And I think that's why you see a lot of people sort of really having an unbelievable time with this, despite the fact that the gun violence problem in this country has been going on for a long time. It's not new. And unfortunately, there's one party that doesn't really want to discuss anything about us banning assault weapons. We did have an assault weapons ban in the United States up until I think it was 2004. It got lifted, it expired and was not renewed. And so many of these crimes, including the one involving Charlie Kirk, involve long range assault style weapons. Now, we don't know if this is a quote assault style weapon. It could be a hunting rifle. I didn't catch, I did hear the bullet, something about the bullet being an aught, which tells me that this is a high caliber style rifle, but I don't know that. And unfortunately, my father, who was in law enforcement, is not alive, and he knew everything about rifles, and he'd be the perfect person to ask. But I do have some cop friends I'll ask about the weapon. But you know, in so many of these cases, we find that the weapon is in fact a you know, a high caliber weapon. And the Democratic Party, for example, has been pushing for some sort of an assault weapons ban for a long time. The Republicans have been pushing back against that. It's really a moment of money in politics because the NRA really controls that conversation. And obviously, the Governor Cox, did not get into all of that, but he did get into some social issues that I thought it was interesting that he brought up the social media thing and the touch grass. He said touch grass, which was, we have a mugshot here, the suspect. And the touch grass thing was actually pretty true, I think. I mean, we spend so much time in front of these screens. I'm sitting in front of the screen right now. Thankfully, after I get off this screen, I will be touching grass. But I mean, it is problematic, I think, that we spend so much time in front of things that are not human. You know, we're human beings spending a lot of times spending things that are not human, and we're brought things, scenes of violence and everything else that are disturbing, that you typically would not have seen only a generation ago. But the political leanings of the suspect, I don't think are known, as you know, as you would imagine. Again, on social media, sometimes social media is very helpful, and at other times it's very destructive. It's actually a really crazy dynamic. I mean, sometimes social media is fantastic. You find out so much so quickly, if it's accurate, of course. You have to check everything. And then other times it is dangerous. You know, it's actually slightly dangerous. You know, we do have a disinfo issue in this country, and this is you know, a situation where this is an extremely violent thing that happened on video, and everybody sees it, and it's immediately put into the public domain on social media. You have to remember that X does not have a they don't have what is commonly, I think, considered a community filter of some type. So when violent content goes up, it runs and is generally not taken down. So the best you can do is say to people, don't take it down. But at any rate, I mean, do take it down, or don't retweet it. At any rate, that Governor Cox brought that up was quite interesting. We'll see what other details come out. There's a search online right now to see if what the party registration of the individual is. You know, Tyler Robinson. What, you know, his father apparently is a law enforcement officer. I read that his father was a sheriff. I have to check that. That is interesting. Most law enforcement in this country, or a lot of members of the law enforcement community, are Republicans. This is Utah, which is a red state. Not to assume that the son would be registered to any party, because we don't know that. Those facts are unknown. But, you know, it's not like it's, you know, a blue state where you're going to be thinking to yourself, okay, this person's registered as a Democrat. Who knows? We'll know. But you can see everybody online running around trying to find that out right now. And so that is going to be the next thing. You're going to see a rush to narrative. That is what happens in these situations. The narrative control is going to be unbelievable. You already saw, and I was at the U.S. Capitol yesterday talking to members of Congress about the murder of Charlie Kirk. And of course, Nancy Mace comes out and blames the left, knowing nothing, We didn't know who it was. We didn't know where the person was from. We didn't know what their motivation was. I actually think at 22 years old, it's not going to get that deep. It just isn't. I mean, I don't think it's going to get that deep at 22 years old. He's so young that it's like, really? What deep motivation? I don't think people, when you're that age, you're not necessarily thinking everything out, politically or otherwise. But Nancy Mace gets out there, Republican member from South Carolina, on the Capitol steps yesterday and goes on and on and on about how this is politically motivated. It's the fault of the libs and all this other stuff. And, that's wild because we didn't know anything. I mean, we really, really just didn't know anything. And we still sitting here. We know a name. We know what his father does for work. His father is law enforcement. But we got to be careful because I'm a big evidence type person. They do seem to have some pretty substantial evidence. They do have video. They have photos. They tracked them on the video. That's a very substantial piece of evidence. But let's see what happens next. And be very careful about what the truth is and what the facts are, because social media does allow people to get ahead of themselves in a way that I think is not particularly healthy much of the time. Thanks for the few folks that were on. I'll probably be back at some point, maybe 9 o'clock tonight. We'll see. We'll see how the news goes, but I got to go touch grass. As the governor said, apologies to the governor that I didn't know who he was. I thought he was a cop. He looks like a cop to me, but I mean, I don't know. I messed up. I should have realized that was the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. So that's my bad, big time on that one. And that's it. I'll be back soon. It's been a long 2 days for a lot of reasons. HBCU shut down around this country. 2 in Virginia had to pause everything they were doing. And I have no idea why, quite frankly, because they had nothing to do with anything. And so that was a strange situation. This is Lauren Burke, and I'll be back soon at some point, maybe to talk about this or something else. It was a very violent event that happened on September 10. And wow, it is, sometimes you wonder if social media is a good thing or a bad thing, because that was something, and it traumatized a lot of people. And you can see in the initial reactions of people, you can see the trauma. It's a violent thing to see. There was someone that was online that suggested that maybe we should show these things because we're not particularly good at talking about gun violence in a way that really displays what the damage is on the other side of the bullet, right? We talk about it. We know the stats. People see the numbers. The numbers are this, the numbers are that. Nobody really shows what exactly a bullet can do. And man, it is something to really see and just say, wow, how are we not doing something about that? How are we not? I thought Sandy Hook was going to be the moment. I think that was 2012. And I realized at the time I was working for Politic 365 as a managing editor. As a managing editor of a site called Politic 365, which was a great startup political site. And I thought that was it. I mean, when kids start getting killed, little kids, it's like, wow, that's huge. But it didn't happen. And here we are many years later with this type of situation. This is Lauren Burke, and I will be back soon. Thanks for everybody who joined. Thank you so much. And again, apologize to the governor of Utah. I will not forget who the governor of Utah is again after this. Thanks so much.